gonna show you how to open Camaro taillights. Specifically, these are the aftermarket Camaro taillights, so I don't know if the OEM ones are gonna open up the same way. I would imagine that they do though. We are opening these up to change out the stock LEDs to these completely addressable LEDs. First, let's see what tools we need. First tool that we're gonna need is a cutter. This is specifically an ultrasonic cutter. It's got a very, very thin blade on it. It provides a really, really good cut, although it's quite expensive. I think this was like $400 or $500. If you don't want to spend that, you can use a Dremel. I recommend the diamond bit on it because it's so thin, but the Dremel is extremely messy, so I rarely get that out. Next up is a pair of screwdrivers, specifically flathead. I like the pocket ones the best because it's able to get into a very small area. And then you can use this if things are not going that well, and you can really force things open. But that's also when you break things, so be careful. After you've opened them and done all your modifications, then it's time to plastic weld everything back up. To do that, I like to use this hot knife right here, just setting it in between the two plastic pieces and literally welding it back up. This little thing is amazing. The plastic weld is to give it that structure back, and then to actually completely seal it, we're gonna use some of this black silicone. That's gonna make it waterproof. Now we can move on to cutting. Okay, let's get started. So the cut line is literally just going to be this mold line right here. See, these are perma-sealed right in there. So they technically could be baked open, but in my experience, whenever you bake open perma-seal on lights with this thin of a trough, you're gonna have major water leak issues down the line, and you would be able to see the seal after you have opened it up and put it back together. So us cutting it is actually gonna hide the cut line really well, and it's gonna have less water leak issues down the road. So the way that I'm going to cut this is literally just at a 90-degree angle all the way around. I should say that my goal in this is to leave the inner housing in there. We're not actually trying to take it out. We just want to get to the LED. Thankfully, these are really small and easy to cut. Next up, we're gonna grab our pocket screwdriver, just get into the cut line, and then you can kind of twist and break the rest of it loose. There we go. This thing is completely open. Now let's move on to putting it back together. The mods on this light have been done, and it is ready to go back together. So what we're gonna do is literally take our hot knife and melt the two pieces of plastic back together. Similar to this, except make it look nice. Now that this is all plastic welded, it is time to make it waterproof with our black silicone. So the way that I do this is literally by caulking it onto the taillight and getting rid of the excess by putting it on a rag. These are just like old used up rags that I'm not going to use on a light or car anymore. So then it just turns into a rag for silicone and glue. And that is really clean. Completely modified. We didn't have to do any painting on the edges because the edges are still really clean. You can't see any of the cut from the front, and it is still going to mount up, which in my experience, whenever you bake a set of lights like this, they always have weird fitment issues after.